Welcome back to the Diplomatic Lounge. We have been so caught up in the daily absurdities of politics worldwide that we tend to forget that there are still wars going on. But I don't want to comment on those. I'm looking somewhat over my shoulder at war experiences from my own diplomatic career, and specifically the Balkan Wars between 1992 and 1995. Now, as it happened in the early 90s, many of the armed forces of all kinds of countries were eager to participate in peacekeeping operations of the United Nations. The underlying reason was that with the end of the Cold War, many defense establishments in the West were afraid that their budgets were going to be cut. So they had to find new, meaningful work. And going into UN peacekeeping was one of the first options. The history of the UN peacekeeping in the Balkan Wars is a tragic one, because it ended in dismal failure in most places. But there is one interesting exception, and that precisely happened when I was participating in liaison work between a Belgian contingent in Eastern Slavonia. Now, Eastern Slavonia, which is today part of Croatia, is, even by standards of the Balkans, a very complicated area. It's wedged in between Hungary, Bosnia and Serbia, and because of the ethnic mix, it was one of the territories where the Serb nationalists absolutely did not want to give up. Now, to another coincidence, the Belgian military found themselves working in the same zone with a Russian contingent. And this was a strange experience because Belgium is not only a staunch NATO member, the headquarters of NATO are in Brussels. So working together with the Russians all of a sudden was a very novel experience. Now you have to remember 1992, shortly after the implosion of the Soviet Union, the Russian military were in very poor shape. And our Belgian military came to realize that the Russians needed all kinds of practical help. They hadn't seen proper medical care for months. Many of them needed a dentist. And we decided, just out of compassion and solidarity, to help out our Russian counterparts. And this created a very interesting situation because the Russians, being Orthodox Christians like the Serbs, were on good terms with the Serbian nationalists. And this made the situation in that sector much easier to manage than in many other sectors. It also showed that even in the middle of an atrocious war, there are small solidarities and human factors that play a role. As a result of all these things, it was one of the more peaceful parts in the whole of the Balkans, and the reunification of that area with Croatia went much more smooth than in many other parts, although it is, by its geographic location, one of the most complex area in terms of ethnicity, religions and identity. So, in all the bad things that are going on, I still remember with a little flicker of hope that even in bad situations, there are human factors that play a role. There are some footnotes to it, though, because when we started to organize the transport of the medical equipment, I had to apply for permission to fly the containers, because it was a lot of material, over Austrian airspace, and the Austrians were pretty unwilling to grant that. They still had imperial dreams and some old ambitions regarding their influence in that part of the Balkans. And let's not forget, Croatia, whatever it is now, had been a fascist state during the Second World War. The Austrians were not entirely free of some feelings of revenge against Tito. just like the Germans, had not been free of those feelings when they supported the independence of Croatia and Slovenia, which set in motion the whole of the Balkan tragedy. So all in all, a mixture of experiences, but in the rather dark days we're living today, I cannot forget that there are also glimmers of hope. Thank you, and see you next time.